Welcome to the Governor's Mansion. This is one of my favorite rooms in the mansion. It's called the Nook. As you can see, it's a very small area, but today we would call it our family room. First, we're going to be talking about some of the first ladies in the Nook. We are going to talk about some events that happened during the governor's elections, and we will talk about some of the first ladies and their families and show you that they were just ordinary people like you and me. If you notice, there's a beautiful staircase next to the Nook. It's called a free, F-R-E-E, freestanding staircase. Wonder why they did that. Do you see anything holding it up? It is known as one of the most beautiful walnut staircases in the United States. Now, the staircase leads up to the second floor, where the governor and his family live. When the mansion was first built, there were only bedrooms on the second floor, 8 bedrooms to be exact. And that was because the governors had large families then. Well, if you were upstairs with nothing but bedrooms up there, you would like some time away from your siblings, so you probably would sneak down the stairs into the Nook. And there you would read a book, do your homework, play a game, or even practice the piano on this beautiful Steinway piano. Now, we see the harp in the Nook today. The harp has not been here that long. It was donated to the mansion by the Pillsbury Wainwright family of St. Louis during the Carnahan administration. Now, if we look over here, we see some chairs, and we know that the mother probably came down here to be with the children, and she probably brought some clothes down here to do some mending, because we have this beautiful antique sewing kit next to the chair. Next to the sewing kit is a beautiful grandfather clock. This was donated to the mansion by Governor and Mrs. Lon Stevens. Her portrait is at the top of the stairs. If you notice, her portrait is there in what we call the apsidal inn of the mansion, or the turn. And that reminds us that Governor and Mrs. Lon Stevens were here between 1897 and 1901 during the turn of the 20th century. During Lon Stevens' election, there was a very important ballot that was issued for the voters of Missouri to vote on. We've got to remember, the women didn't have the right to vote then, it was just the men. They were voting on moving the capital to Sedalia. Fortunately for us, it was defeated two by one. Governor Stevens and his wife, Maggie Stevens, decided to have a wonderful Christmas party for the children of Jefferson City. They invited all the children ages 10 and under to come to the mansion for a Christmas party. Over 400 children arrived. And can you imagine the awe in their faces when they came into the Nook and there was this beautifully decorated Christmas tree that reached the ceiling? The children had a great time, and one of their favorite things was running up and down the staircase. And you would even see Governor Stevens crawling underneath the Christmas tree with the children. It was a wonderful occasion for everyone. The next First Lady I want to talk about is Mrs. Hortense Hyde. She is over here. Now, before her husband was elected, there was a very important event occur in the United States Congress. In 1920, the United States Congress passed the amendment to the Constitution. It was the 19th Amendment that Susan B. Anthony had campaigned for over 40 years. It gave women the right to vote. During the election, there was an overwhelming turnout of voters because women also had the right to vote. And Arthur Hyde was put into the governor's mansion, and Warren Harding was put into the White House. Now, Governor and Mrs. Hyde had a 9-year-old daughter named Caroline. Caroline, when she first came into the mansion, she saw something that she really wanted to do, but she couldn't do it because there were so many visitors and so much going on downstairs that she had to wait until the next day. So the next day, she crept to the staircase, climbed onto the banister, and slid down the banister. And boy, was she glad there was a newel post lady there to stop her descent. And you can see the newel post lady also has a light which lights the way up to the second floor, where the governor and his family live. Before I talk about the next First Lady, we need to go back in history. Before Missouri became a state in 1821, we were a territory, and the president would select different governors to be territorial governors. The last territorial governor was William Clark, and I'm sure you know him because he was part of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Well, when election rolled around, there was William Clark running for election, and also a gentleman named Alexander McNair, who was a very important businessman in St. Louis. Alexander McNair won, and he became the very first Missouri governor. Therefore, his wife, Mrs. McNair, became the very first First Lady of Missouri. Now, I'm going to end with a question for you. Mrs. McNair never lived in the governor's mansion, nor in Jefferson City, because the first state capital was not in Jefferson City. Where was it?